Like, at the end of the day, really, what's the motives here? What's the motive of Mark Carney? He's had this illustrious career. He's a billionaire. He's fine. He can go off and ride off into the sunset. But what's he doing with Canada? Is he altruistically coming to save us from something?
So in reading his book, his idea is that central bankers, along with regulators, have to push regulations in place that create these new markets that lead us towards net zero. And he knows that public finance doesn't have the money to transition the economy fast enough, and they will need to tap the private wealth of the world to do that. And the way that they intend to tap that private wealth is telling private wealth how they can spend their money. So the Canada Pension Plan is one of the richest plans in the world. And Brookfield's already got its hands, or had its hands, in the Canada Pension Plan's pockets when they had distressed assets that they didn't want to hold on to. And you could argue whether they were distressed or not. But setting that aside, Brookfield came along and said, we want to sell you some roads in India. And the CPP said, okay. So now every Canadian owns a chunk of roadways, toll roads in India that we may or may not want to own. And I think his plan, because he's in his book, he talks about an organization he founded, GFANZ, and I don't know if it's GFANZ, and it is a net zero oriented organization that draws in commitments from all of the pension plans around the world, and he boasts that it's worth 130 trillion with a T dollars, and they're all committed to investing in line with net zero, and they'll all be rated on their accomplishments. So if you're not investing properly, you'll have a rating and you'll have pressure to encourage you to spend your private money doing what the regulators and what government says that you will do. So in reference to Canada, I genuinely believe the Trump administration is trying to take the United States in a different direction. They've recognized China as a geopolitical adversary. They've recognized they got to start building things. They've got decaying small towns all across the United States. They've got economic ruin everywhere. I genuinely believe he wants to rebuild Main Street and make America great again. I wasn't going to go that direction, but to actually make
it fits. It's nice.
Right. Well, I mean, the motto actually wraps up the concept. And I think he wants to take North America along with him. I think he's very genuine, one way or another, but I think he's very genuine about the idea of Fortress North America, and it has some merit. Whether we're sovereign or not, take that part off the table. It's about working together to actually build a strong North America that can counter China. I believe Mark Carney's here to make sure that doesn't happen. And I think he's here to sacrifice Canada in an effort to undermine the Trump administration, at the same time as keeping Canada aligned with this project towards net zero, this Davos ideal set, let's say, this European ideal set. But, you know, it's complicated because China and Europe aren't getting along.
If I could just interject with the question.
Please.
It's an interesting theory. Please. Why then is Donald Trump saying he would prefer Carney as prime minister?
I was going to go there. Yeah, I'm thinking the same thing.
Because I genuinely believe he can't afford to have Canada under the thumb of China if he wants to counter China. And if he has to, I genuinely believe he will use economic pressure to break Canada. I think he wants Mark Carney because in his mind, the destruction that Mark Carney would visit on Canada will so weaken us, it will make us easier for him to maybe even absorb us, but at the very least control us. He can't, and this is where it gets dicey, because I do believe there's a separatist movement that's nascent that won't be on April 29th if Mark Carney's elected. I think that starts going full force. And I'm not sure the Americans can afford to sit idly by and allow a bunch of independent nations to just spring up organically on their northern border, because instead of facing one Canada that's undermined by China, they may face 2 or 3 or 4 nations that are undermined by China. And there's no guarantees that any of this happens, but history is replete with examples of nations that are there 1 minute and they're gone the next. Sometimes they come back, sometimes they never do. And when you're in the historic moment, things like treaties and your ideas of your charter rights, or your ideas that you have a right to a referendum, if you're in a midst of a crisis, a really bad crisis like no one alive, not even the oldest boomer has ever seen, because we've lived in a bubble that you have to go all the way back to Augustan Rome to find a bubble this long, where there's been such a prolonged period of relative peace and prosperity, where a whole huge geography hasn't actually known war on its own soil. So I think we'd be foolish to doubt how bad things can possibly get over the next several years. And I think our planners are aware. I mean, the Prime Minister's office itself under Mark Carney has come out and said by 2040, people will be subsistence hunting without reference to regulation, which means denuding the forest to survive. That's a hell of a statement to come out of the PMO.
Yeah.
And again, there's a decided lack of curiosity into what underlies that statement. So I think we're at a profound moment of shifting. The hegemonic moment is over. There's no hegemony anymore. There's a multipolar world. It's emerging, and it's chaotic. Like there's people who say, just trust the plan. It's all a movie. Enjoy the show. It ain't like that. Nothing's written. Like it's no one knows how this ends. Trump doesn't know how this ends. Xi doesn't know how this ends. Carney doesn't know how this ends because they're writing it now. It's being written.
They're all just hoping to be the victors, obviously, in this whole thing.